Pleasure.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Motion, minutes are approved. All right. On our next item is the public comments. Do we have any public comments? We do not. All right. On our agenda, training, and Mark has an announcement, right?
I'd ask that I could address this first
okay,
before we go
sorry.
to training, if that's okay with everybody, because this is not on our agenda.
Okay.
And that's just so we can cut Todd loose here in just a second.
Okay.
Is that the new dollar store?
The new Dollar General, you can see on the plans here, they've got an overhead electric running to a pole, and then they've got an underground electric from the pole to the building.
Okay.
And they did not do underground here. It's overhead to the building. It's about 35 feet. So
Because of rock or just because it's cheaper?
they just missed it.
Just
And
did it.
yeah, and so they have asked, and I've spoke with Todd today that they, have the right to ask if they could amend the plans and bring them back in here to see if the planning commission would approve that one little piece of 35 feet not being underground. Let me pull it up here. It might be a little bigger.
Todd, would that set a precedent in any way for the next guy that asked for this?
Well, it could. The question I think the controlling question that I don't know the answer to, because this just came to my attention today, and is that whether the town could require them to make that underground under our standards. And, I don't know how strong a precedent it sets, but I do want to clarify whether or not that's something that we can require for that service line, and have the planning commission decide. I mean, I think if we can require it, then I think they definitely need to come back before you and discuss it. Otherwise, I think we
Wouldn't we be able to require it since it was on the plan that we had already approved?
Well, they can amend the plan.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's essentially what they would be asking for, is to amend the plan.
And in our design, I know we've got underground power for all new developments, but this is kind of a gray area. I guess if we allow them to do this, if we want everybody moving forward, we can change our design review moving forward. Not for this, but moving forward, we could change our design review to require underground secondary, because the underground for new developments is referring to underground primary.
Well, and is that just residential, or do we make it for
Well, it's
residential
both.
and commercial?
That's
what I thought.
Well, it's both, but if they have existing power on their property, so they had no need to run any new infrastructure to get to their development, if you will.
Right.
Because they had an existing power line somewhere that already went across this property, or maybe across the road. No, it's right there. I believe that's an existing power, where the E is right there. So all they were doing is running off of an existing overhead to service overhead. If we want all secondary from the existing power source to be underground in commercial or residential, mainly commercial, I think we could address that with the design review.
What I had suggested to Marion is that we do something that says for commercial developments, no new poles and no overhead
services.
No overhead service on the property.
No overhead service feeding.
It can come from the road, of course, but starting at the road, they have to go underground.
Wherever the existing power is from that point, they got to go underground.
And just
and we can address that moving forward, irregardless of what we do.
Over time, it's just going to look a lot better.
It's going to look cleaner, because we're making everybody new developments doing it.
Well, and it gets
Commercial
rid of a lot
shit
of
as well.
problems with lines getting snapped and all kinds of things.
Can we do that tonight?
I think it's something we'd probably have to advertise, is it not, Todd?
Yes, and I would want them to go ahead and submit the proposed amended plat or site plan. Sorry, and from what this is the first time I looked at that, but is that OHE, is that existing to the?
That's overhead electric.
No, that's new. The OHE
Okay.
coming off, the one right along 31A is existing, but roughly what,
35 feet about.
well, but that's a new power pole that's been set up
Yes,
late.
yeah, it's on the plan, on the site plan, they've got overhead electric coming to this pole right here.
Mhm.
And
And they
then
got underground.
the only thing in question is just 35 feet
Oh,
that says
yeah.
UGE.
Yeah, underground electric, yeah. So we approved it showing the overhead to a pole
Yeah.
and then 35 feet.
And that 35 feet doesn't do near as much as the, however.
Right, I think that aesthetically, it doesn't make that much difference since we've got that overhead running to that pole.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, that underground piece is gonna be that big of a deal aesthetically, which would be our
Is there
main point.
is there a transformer out here by the road, or is it on the lift pole? Do you know?
I don't know. I actually meant to go take a picture of it today. And forgot.
Because if the overhead electric, if their transformer is out by the road, the overhead electric going to that power pole to be set and then to the building is a lot less intrusive as if it were overhead primary. Overhead primary, if it reads 20 foot both directions from line, from any shrubbery, any trees, it would kind of mess up the landscape buffer requirement for the next guy. If it's overhead primary, if it's overhead secondary, it's a coated wire like you have feeding your house, and you can plant trees right underneath it. I mean, if a tree touches it, you cut it back 2 foot. You don't. It's not live electricity in the in the air.
But we can't do anything much about that one because we've already.
Approved it, and it's technically, even if they just subfed 35 feet underground, it's kind of a loophole, but they're still in compliance with the underground requirement. So I think this would be okay if we allowed them to do it, but we could fix it for the next guys. But if they need to formally submit for a variance, or not a variance, but just amend the site plan, if our design rules don't disallow it, then they could just amend the
So they'll
plan.
submit it for next meeting and
Correct.
on the agenda afterwards. And so do you need to advertise for that? Are we back to that question?
I will have to advertise, I think, for us to do the changes to design review to require it
Okay.
from now on. But yeah, I will get with the designer and tell him to give me an updated site plan for the planning commission to consider next month.
So that's all we need.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
You good with that?
You're talking about the spiral wrapped wire? Spiral.
Yeah. Because all we could technically make them bury is that last 35 feet, and that's really what we don't see anyway. And that's, and I guess moving forward, if we specify it properly, we could, moving forward, there won't be any new overhead power lines run. They would have to
On any commercial property.
on any commercial property, unless there was a situation where Duck River required it to get to the property,
Right.
and then from there they would have to go underground. What is north of this property, Mark? Is it commercial zone property, or just
It is. It's actually the property that
the rest of the church property? Is that right?
Well, north of it is
The rest of the property that they.
the other 4 or so acres
That was part of this.
Part of that. property.
Okay. So
So it's commercial also.
he's not messing somebody else up for the future.
Just to agree, so that
Okay, yeah.
have it so they'll know about it.
But they'll have to bury it. They can come argue, but we changed the rules. So, okay.
Okay.
As far as the training goes, my suggestion is I found a 4-part series that I can make recordings and give y'all access to them, and y'all watch them at your leisure and just let me know that you've done it so I can document it.
Yep.
And that way we won't have to call 4 1-hour meetings or sit here and watch 50 minutes of it. If that's okay with y'all, we'll do it that way.
Sounds wonderful.
Just let y'all do that sometime between now and the end of the year.
Yep.
All right.
I make a motion we approve that.
I have a motion, to have a second, all in favor, let it be
Yes.
known by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries. Any other business?
The new alderman here gave me this information from Mary Young. And I know Ryan hasn't, Mr. Perriman has not pursued building on those few critical lots that he last talked to us about, but we do have, there is some more documentation that we didn't have light of
Okay.
when we had that discussion that, and Todd, I think you have it as well. Is that correct?
I do, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, which I think the way we left it with Mr. Perriman was we put the burden on him to go get permissions from all the affected property owners. And if he is successful doing that, and if it's legal to change any of this stuff, with the blessing of the neighbors, I think it would be fine for him to press forward, just like we told him he could. But I don't, after quickly glancing over some of this stuff, it may be a little more challenging than just, going and getting a building permit on a legal lot of record, because it does look like there was safeguards put in place by the developer and the town due to water concerns in that area. So
I haven't seen those.
And who had this, Mary?
Mary Young, his neighbor,
Mary Young,
she
my
would,
neighbor gave it to me because she was a questioner.
she lives up close to the intersection of Edmondson and
She lives 3 houses from Biggers,
from Biggers and Edmondson back north. Yeah.
right
Yeah.
next to
That's
the field.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
So,
wonderful. Okay, anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to
yep.
adjourn.
I'll second it.
Sounds good to me.
Good deal.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you later.